All right. What are we gonna do today? I guess just go through, create this backlog.
Yeah, I was gonna say we can definitely take as much time as we need for that as well. If there's any questions, we opted to not have an office hour this time around just because we're feeling better about the work that we're doing. But I think there was still one ongoing issue that we're kind of working on. Nika, I'll give the floor to you. Do you need any help with that? I think you're well on your way to doing it. There's just some comments I left about, hey, we can like extract some stuff, use context where possible. You had a comment about here's this like global object that I need to use and it needs to be like available across components. And I'm like, that's what a context is. Like use a context right there. So I just left some comments about like how we can optimize it. I think overall it's is coming along. So thank you for tackling that. But yeah, if there's any questions about that, we'll maybe start off with that and then we'll quickly move over to the backlog and see how we can fill that up. So yeah, we'll go from there. Anything you want to mention, Nika?
Yeah, so I had just posted another draft. So I did not see your comments, and I will go through them a little later. I totally appreciate that you left them. I didn't notice, but
It,
so
it was
I
right before the meeting, so like no worries.
uh, okay, I have been working on creating a use urgency hook. So it was like I moved a lot of logic out of the Firebase, and it's like it's not according to acceptance criteria because the acceptance criteria actually wants it to have it within the Firebase. I moved it outside the Firebase into the hooks in order to maintain hooks inside the hooks. Yeah, and so it works much better. First of all, because there are no global objects, right? So the state is encapsulated, and so there's basically like a use urgency hook, and within the use urgency hook, I keep the state, and basically I populate the same sets. So basically there are four sets, and I populate sets with like an initial object, and then I set a use urgency hook with that object, and I also convert sets into arrays so that we don't have to do it every time. And yeah, and basically that use urgency hook returns a sorted array of items. So they are pre-sorted by urgency and they are pre-sorted alphabetically. So we display them immediately pre-sorted, and then, in case the user wants to filter it, it'll already be, all totally ready. And I'm pretty happy about it. So one thing I do need help with is I do not know how to update tests. Yeah, I've been kind of, yeah, I totally need help there. But I just posted that draft. It looks very nice. And you know what? The issue I had with the global object and everything, I, for whichever reason, couldn't sort alphabetically. But when I pre-sort everything within the use urgency hook, I create literally everything is pre-sorted. So it's definitely sorted by alphabet. And the state object is definitely, reinitializing every time depending on dependencies. And so those are definite improvements from what you left the comments on. So it's like no globals. Um, yeah, the state is encapsulated and we are returning a pre-sorted array.
Okay, that sounds awesome. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love I love the dedication between making our code cleaner, especially by extracting things. It's very easy to get away, especially when you're building out a component to like just throw everything in there. Absolutely everything, state management, um, all the logic for the component, but is definitely a good idea to start thinking about like, hey, this is a like a dummy presentational context, and this is like where our business logic lives. So I love the move towards that. I think that's really cool. Yeah, yeah, exactly what Jennifer often said. Classic tech debt issue. Awesome. Yeah, we can definitely switch context here and talk about going into our backlog. I was going to say we should do this very close to like how we do a retro. So maybe I'll give 10 minutes to the team, 10 to 15 minutes to like add issues on there. What we'll do then is we'll just make sure they kind of meet our definition of done. And what that means is just they have a good description, they have like a good acceptance criteria. Um, And then from there, what we can do is we can point it. The idea behind pointing just simply means we're trying to estimate the effort it's going to take to tackle that issue. So we'll go from like a 1, 2, 3, 5. Mostly is done using the Fibonacci sequence. If something is an 8 or above, it should be probably broken down to smaller tickets. So I estimate most of the things that we're going to be tackling until we're done, it's probably like a 2, 3, or 5. And so, yeah, we're going to be pointing those issues, and then we're going to be prioritizing them on our backlog of what we think is important and what we should tackle in what order. So we'll go from there. I'll go ahead and share the link to the backlog here in the chat. Awesome. I'll go ahead and set a timer here as well. What do we prefer? Should we, does 10 minutes sounds good? Do we want to make it 15 minutes? Let's maybe start with 10 minutes here. 10 minutes. Feel free to go off camera as well. And then Danielle, if you want to stop. Awesome. So nicely done. I do see some other issues being created. I'll go ahead and share my screen here. And there we go. Just give me a thumbs up when you can see that. Awesome. All right, so what we're going to do is we're just going to go through an issue one by one here, and then essentially just check if it has a description that makes sense to all of us, whether like a solution has been offered, or if we want to brainstorm towards a solution, and then just make sure that the acceptance criteria is something that makes sense, and everyone just kind of agrees that that's the approach that we should take. Awesome, so we'll start from the top here. So if I hover over it, just go ahead and voice over it, and then I can open it up for us to go through it together here as well. So I think this one belongs to Nika here.
Yeah, I've actually set it up before I realized that you created a template and then I never changed it. But yeah,
No worries. Yeah, as long
I'm
as
sorry.
honestly, no, it's all honestly, the template is a little too much. Honestly, I was filling out the template and I was like, this is too much. So it's okay if we don't use the template. Essentially, 3 critical things that we're looking for: what the user story is, what we think the solution should be, and acceptance criteria. It can be just something really simple.
Yeah, so this is basically as a user, I want to receive alerts for important actions and notifications in a non-intrusive manner. Basically, I was trying to express that we should use like a Toastify or whatever similar library. I was not sure which one is the correct name for it. But yeah, basically so that all notifications and like custom messages and error messages can be displayed in a certain spot that we can all agree on, and that they can all disappear after a certain amount of time in a certain manner, and everything is consistent and nice and different. There is like a color difference depending on like whether it is a success or error message. Yeah.
I love that. That's awesome. Does anyone have questions about that? Feeling good about it? Awesome. You know what? I think we should point it as we're doing that. So let me just open up a Hijishu session here. I think you guys are going to like that. Let me just figure out how to get one open here first. Sorry, folks. You just have to see me stumbling through this.
I want to especially point out that I did use AI to help me write this amount of text because by myself I would never be able to. So it's by no means like set in stone. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's I'm not gonna lie, that's often how I fill out templates and whatnot, just because I feel like developers are best at being creative, and a lot of this work can be done by AI. So I think that's totally fine.
Thank you. I agree. And they're good at it, you know. If I give it a
They're very
two-sentence
good at it.
explanation, they are good at filling it with lots of things.
Fair. Okay, cool. Let's have a look here. Create a new room. I'm gonna go ahead and copy this over. So just have a look at your chat. We're gonna be doing something really cool that I use at work all the time, and our team definitely loves it. So go ahead and open up this Hajishu session here. I'm seeing 3 people, and I definitely want the mentors to be in on this, just because we're doing this as a team. So essentially what we're going to be doing is we're going to be story pointing this. You essentially say the effort that it's going to take. So it could be 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. Again, I don't expect a lot of things to be higher than 5, just because we should be really breaking those down into smaller tickets. So what we'll do is just go ahead and pick what you think is the estimate here, and then we'll take the average. And then if there are opportunities for us to like discuss it a little bit more. So for example, someone picks a 2 and someone picks a 5, I'll definitely be picking on those people, being like, hey, could you maybe advocate for why it should be one or the other? So I'm only seeing one person doing the points here. Let's go and get some more in.
What's the scale? Like one like
Yeah,
out
good
or
question. Yeah,
out?
one in our team we consider one like a copy change. So for example, something says welcome to this app and it should be like, hey user, welcome to this app. So one's like a copy change. Two could be like utility had to be created to tackle something specifically. A 3 could be like a whole new component had to be made. 5 could be like it was a fairly complex component with like state management. Um, and then 8 is like an architectural change, like we now implemented Firebase and we want to leverage it. So kind of that scale. Story pointing is not an easy thing. It's something that you get better at as you do more of it, but it's really the perceived efforts. One of the ways you can maybe think about it too, although they're not the same, is like how many days it would take you to do it. If you're new to it, that's kind of a good way of looking at it. So like 1 day, 2 days, 3 days kind of thing. But really it's a perceived effort. So how tough do you think it's going to be doing that work? And what's great about it is as you do more story pointing, so as you estimate more work, you'll be able to see, oh, like if that was a 2, well, this work is a lot harder. So that should maybe be a 3 or 5. So that's kind of how it goes. Yeah, hopefully that helps. And if the other mentors want to add something, please go ahead and do that. Cool. I think we're missing one more. So someone has it open, but they haven't pointed it. Cool. Awesome. So an average of 3, which is really good. I'm seeing a half in there. Does anyone want to talk about the half?
Oh, I put the half. Um, I thought because you just import the React toolstar file library and then you just remove the alert lines and replace it with the toastify lines. I think it shouldn't be too hard.
Yeah, absolutely. I would maybe advocate closer to a 2 or a 3, just because maybe like tests will need to be implemented. There could be some issues when you're installing the package. You could have some packages that are not getting along with other packages. So an effort here would probably be closer to a 2 or 3. Would you agree, Warren?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah? Okay, cool. And honestly, that's what like the whole story point is about, is really you're advocating for why you think it's going to take longer. As a new developer, I often see people like underestimating or overestimating, which is totally fine. It's like a art that you kind of master over time. So as a team, we're thinking of average of 3. So that's what I'm going to do here. So I think we should be able to like go in here, estimate, and put 3 in there. And we're feeling good about that. So way to go, team. Let's go ahead and work on the next one. So as a user, I want to be able to delete a list. Nika, did you want to go more into this one here?
Yeah, this one does not have a description yet, but pretty much as it says, next to each list would be like some kind of button that would, be probably like a symbol rather than a wordy word button. And but if you click on that symbol, it also asks like a confirmation. Are you sure you want to delete this list? And if, as a user, yes, I do want to delete this list, the list will get deleted and it'll disappear from the screen and from the Firebase. And if I do not choose delete, it'll just return.
Okay.
I asked a
Okay.
clarifying question on the bottom here, which I think you basically answered. Is this a soft or hard delete? Because some apps can be like, oh, just delete this list from my possible list of lists. And then in the settings, you could like permanently delete it. So I just wanted to clarify to make sure to see which one you'd like. But it sounds like you want to just outright permanently delete. But I just want to double check.
I have not considered a soft deletion a possibility. Sounds interesting, and I would definitely want to explore that as I have never even thought of it before. Yeah, totally like sounds cool.
Awesome. So I just put in a quick description in there. Please go ahead and update that when you get a chance. Is everyone feeling like they have enough information to point this? Any other clarification questions?
I think there's another clarification question on the
Yeah,
issue.
yeah, yeah. Thanks, Jennifer. Yeah, that was me. Yeah, I was just wondering if anyone with access could delete the list or just the owner of the list.
That's a great question. I would assume if the list was shared with me, I cannot delete it unless like I just delete it from my view, but not from the other person's like data set, you know?
Cool. Yeah, let's add that into the description here. That's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
So
forget
only
in
the
our app,
owner can do it?
do we track ownership of lists?
That's a very good question.
A good question. Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
Because
I think we can
I'm
pull the ID from
Mhm.
from auth, right? And then compare it with the string of the list path, and that would make you the owner. So I think there's a way of getting to it. But
Mm,
there's nothing specifically that says like the
Yeah,
owner of this list is this person. Like that doesn't exist. But I think we can
there's an
implement
audit trail
functionality.
somewhere. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we could do it. But you know what? That's a really great thing about it. Estimate, like you would have to figure that out. So if you're thinking maybe a 2 or a 3, maybe make this a 5. So that's kind of how estimation works. Only the owner can delete the list. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and reset this session here and go ahead and get your points in. I'm seeing a couple of 3s, a couple of 5s in here, average 4. Are we feeling comfortable with making this a 5? Yeah? Would everyone advocate for this being a 3? Speak now or forever hold your peace. It's going to be a 5. Awesome. Cool. There you go. As a user, if I click on a list name on home, I want to be redirected to the list automatically. I think that's a great one. Nika, did you want to add anything else on here?
Again, pretty much straightforward, like you click on the name and you want to be redirected without needing to go to the list tab. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Let me go ahead and reset the issue board here and go ahead and get your points in. Awesome. 1 and 2 is across the board. The half, do you want to advocate for the half? Awesome. I'm feeling good with the 2. Let's go ahead and go forward with the 2 on here. Awesome. Cool. This one was mine. So it seems like a lot of the work that a user does interacting with the app requires you to be logged in, specifically like seeing your list, being able to interact with your list, adding things to a list. And all of that is on the pretense that a user would be logged in, so we are able to pull that list. So essentially what we're trying to do here is before they can access any of these pages, we want to make sure that they're logged in. Kind of what I had in mind is like we create a different component for the login page. And so if a user tries to go to any page before they're logged in, they would almost be redirected to like a login page. A lot of this is very similar when you go to like any online platform where you try to like access an internal page and what you land on is a login page, and then you get redirected to the page that you were on. So essentially, the acceptance criteria here is users redirected to the login page if they're not authenticated. Once the user is logged in, they can freely navigate to any page in the app. And then, if possible, tests are created to validate that. So we have tests in place to make sure that a user is not able to access any private pages until they're logged in. Any questions about that?
I wonder if maybe, I don't know. If people are anti this, I'm good with it. But just looking at the app right now, it might make sense to add the sign in and sign out button to the navigation, if that might be part of this ticket or second ticket or not due. Just a
Yeah,
thought that I had.
yeah. Would that be the sign in and sign out button? Would they persist on all pages? Are you like advocating for us to be able to add that to like our layout file?
Yeah, yeah, that's what maybe I'm advocating for something different. I should make that a different
Let
thing.
me know. I want to know. But yeah, I definitely recommend it.
Yeah.
I'm curious how it would like overlap on the existing functionality because we do have a sign in button that turns into a sign out button once the user's logged in. So maybe it's a little bit different. But let me know. We can. I usually don't like to increase scope on tickets, so I may advocate us creating a brand new one. But you still have time. If you want to add another issue on there, we can definitely go through it together.
Yeah, maybe I'll just add it
Yeah,
as another, because yeah, right now like the sign in, sign out buttons in the upper left and it looks kind of weird. I feel like it should be on the navigation.
I agree. I think there's
But
definitely a lot of
yeah, I'll
work we
make
can
that a
do on
different
there.
task. That's a
I
good
love that.
call.
That's awesome.
Do
Okay,
that.
cool. Are we feeling good to point this? Yeah? Okay, cool. Let me go and reset the board here and let's go ahead and get those points in. Okay, cool. I'm seeing a 1, 2, 5, 3, 2. So we're kind of all over. Does anyone want to advocate for the 1?
Oh, that was a mistake. I thought I did a one for the sign out, sign in button at the nav bar. That's
Oh,
my
that's
mistake.
really cool. No, no. What would you like it to be?
Uh, Probably a three or four.
3 or 4? Okay, cool.
Mhm.
Um, awesome. I'm seeing an average of 3. So I think 3 is good. Does the person who did 5, do they want to advocate for a 5?
So the only reason I put a 5 is I'm worried about scope creep on this particular issue because it seems like this is not it's well defined that we want a login page, but we don't really have like a true user flow or we don't have a user flow diagram on how we want like okay, flow to here and then how are we going to handle basically checking auth every time we're on an auth protected route and things like that. And so I think there's a lot of upfront thinking involved that's a little bit different than the stuff we've already tackled before on the app. And so I'm worried about scope creep there, so which is why I said it's a 5.
Yeah, that's a really great call out. We don't really know how the user flow will go and how we're going to implement this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to reset the board really quickly here. So with that knowledge, let's see if our points kind of change. Awesome, cool. What I'm going to do really quickly here is I'm going to change the acceptance criteria. And Jen, how did you word that? What should the acceptance criteria be for us to make this a 5?
Let me see. Can sorry, this is like really tiny on my screen. User
Oh, I'm
registration.
sorry.
Once login, it's okay. It's because my tiny laptop screen. Tests are created. I think mm, this probably requires some sort of like authentication hook or something like that.
Okay.
I would
Oh,
think um and then we need to decide like, is this above the router level or just gets called within each route? Um, I guess for me, it's a lot of more open questions on how we want to tackle this. And then there's a lot of things that we might run into after we think about the happy path user flow, uh, whether or not we'll need to update like navigation and stuff. But we've already said that that's going to be like a separate issue.
Okay, so I added two things in there. A hook is created that can be imported across the app to check if the user is logged in, and then a happy path is documented. Do you think that kind of covers it?
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. That'll answer most of the questions.
Right on. And as we're doing this, in the comments for any of these, feel free to add additional questions on there as well. It's always a good idea to be as precise as we can with the tickets here. I think we
Yeah, I
estimated
was gonna
this. Oh, go ahead.
say, this is an unknown though. I might be wrong, but I think the existing use auth hook, if you look at the user, it might have it is authenticated Boolean. I'd have to look into that. I may have just hallucinated that, but a lot of frameworks like this usually have it built in.
Yeah, I think we can just check if the user object is not null and then
That might
use
be easier than
that.
doing a new hook.
Yeah,
If we have to do a new hook, though, obviously we should. But
yeah.
yeah, one thing to think about.
100%. One thing I was going to add is these, as you like, if you're the person tackling this ticket, you're like, hey, like we can absolutely do this without like implementing additional code. Feel free to advocate for that because sometimes when we create these tickets, it's essentially like, hey, how we think we're going to tackle that, but oftentimes when you go into it, it becomes harder or easier than this. So you can absolutely change that or advocate for that as well. So I think that's a really great call out. I think we should be able to use the use auth to do this, but if we need to put it into a separate hook that has like additional business logic for redirection and whatnot, as you're tackling this, you can decide how you want to do that. Awesome. So we estimated this to a 5. And I think this isn't a ticket yet. I'm not quite sure how to tell. Was it this one here? And then we just go convert into an issue. Okay, there we go. Awesome. Did we already do this one? As
Oh, it's the
user
same
only.
one that
Yes.
Nika mentioned. Yeah,
Yeah?
exactly
Okay,
the same.
cool.
That's what I meant.
Okay, right on. Are we okay marking this as a delete from project, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a duplicate. Okay, someone catch me if I'm doing anything wrong. Okay, cool. Next one here. As a user, I want to be able to mark a list as important to have the important things at the top. Nika, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just realizing that I was supposed to like create a quick skeleton of like the acceptance criteria and challenges. I didn't do any of that.
That's okay. We'll do it together.
Yeah, but basically, it's also a point of discussion, but I did think that, maybe if I have like, 30 lists, maybe I want to have some kind of button that would or some kind of icon that with clicking on that icon, I would mark this list as important and it would be moved to the top of the page where all of the lists are, and I will have the important ones on top.
So are you thinking more of pinned lists or starred lists? And do you
Yeah,
want to be able to order the pins slash stars, or are they just sorted in order as you've added them? You can like
I
take a book from lots of different apps and how they handle that kind of thing. Or if there's a different mechanism that you are thinking about.
I guess I did think that they would just be sorted by like a date that they were marked. Although it would be a great idea to also add like a to make lists draggable, but I had just thought about it. I guess I could add it to the backlog so that we can maybe that's an actually maybe we don't want them pinned, maybe we want them to be draggable.
It
Now
may
I
be
I don't know.
easier just because we just kind of control the scope in there. Dragging and dropping may increase scope a lot. A
It's
user
what
may just prefer to pin it because you can do that with just state management. So I do like the idea. I think this is a really great option. Jen, I love that you asked those questions as well because it helps us create those acceptance criterias. So far we know that there needs to be some kind of UX that the user can interact with to pin and unpin. Just to kind of double click on the sort order, what order were we thinking of sorting them, Nika?
Yeah, the just I mean maybe that's basic, but I was just thinking in the order that they were added. Um, you know.
just
Okay,
for
so
reference, a lot of different apps they will pin it, but then something that you pin after will go to the top. And so it'll be kind of like reverse chronological order, but it's totally up to you how you would want to do that. Um, but I just want to put that out there that that's a behavior that's seen across a lot of different apps.
I think a reverse order actually works much better. I agree.
uh, to just kind of lean into that a little bit more, how are they sorted right now? Like if a list was not pinned, how do we present it?
I think the lists are just sorted by order of their creation. So
Okay,
whatever the collections returns, I think it's just sorted by the created at of the
okay,
Mhm.
collection.
right on. I wonder if there's an opportunity for us to like even sort them alphabetically just to find them a lot easier. Um, but yeah, for this one here, we want to go with the reverse order. I don't know what the technical term is, so I'm just going to say reverse add order. And then Nika, if you want to go in there and put the technical terms in there,
I agree.
uh, cool. And then you have for me to pin, unpin. Okay, cool. Another question for you. Do we want the pins to be persistent across the people that have access to those lists, or is it on a per user
I think a
basis?
per
Per
user
user?
basis. I also just wanted to say that the create list function actually does uh, assign an owner to the list, so we are actually having owners of the list. So that would be
Okay,
easier.
cool.
Yeah.
Right on. Awesome. Thanks for looking into that. Any other acceptance criteria we want to add on here before we're feeling good about pointing?
I guess just like the that it has to be accessible.
Yeah, yeah. What is it? A11Y checks. Been done. Cool. And I guess we would want to update the test for this as well, right? Perfect. Update the
Mm.
comment there. I'm going to go
I have
ahead
a
and
quick
reset the
question
board.
here.
Go
Are
ahead.
there any other tickets that consider like user preferences on lists? Because if it does, then I think the scope will be a little bit different because we would have to consider the design of them together. If this is one of the only preferences thing that's going to be added to the app, then that consideration is not as important.
For me personally, I have not considered that. I would be happy to hear any suggestions.
Yeah, I don't think I saw
Jen,
any. I just wanted to make sure.
yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Do we want to, question for you, Jen, do we want to point this in isolation, thinking that this is perhaps the only UX change to the list page?
Yeah, I think so. I think this would be fine. If this is like
Okay.
the only thing that we have to store for like a user, then we don't have to consider like, the design of how we need to make this generic or whatever. So it's it makes the scope a lot smaller.
Yeah. And I'm all for making scope as small as possible. Yeah, it's again, I love when things get across the finish line. So small scope, small MR, get those across the finish line. Awesome. I'm gonna just go ahead and reset that board here and go ahead and get your points are in. Awesome. Threes across the board. Nice. Okay, cool. Go ahead, Jen here. As a user,
Um,
oh, go ahead.
oh yeah, no, go ahead. You
As a user, I want to be able to see more information about the items on my list, such as the next estimate purchase date, average interval date purchase, etc. Jen, go ahead.
So I don't want the scope of this particular one to blow up, so probably can just have some of the metadata that we already have on the item. But I think this app tries to like streamline the kind of soon, not so soon kind of grouping. But some users, myself included, would really like to see the information that's actually stored on the actual item itself. So like what is the actual next purchase date? And maybe some of the values that get put into the estimate next purchase date, what do you call it? Utility function. Because I think we already have that information anyways. So exposing it either in some sort of like drawer or modal or something like that, like if you click more information on the item would probably be nice. Uh,
Awesome. Any other questions about this? Now, Jen, question for you. Would this persist when the item is pinned as well? So essentially it would be like an item, I guess like a drawer item, which would be collapsible and whatever the
I
other word is. But like it would just move from like a pinned section to an unpinned, but like you should be able to do that for all of them.
No, I don't think so. I think this is basically like you'll open this is like a more details kind of thing. So you can think of like we'll have our list items and you can either like like have three dots to open it or you have like some sort of like arrow button that would open a door that just shows you the details of the item. Like in the fully fledged version of this that we're not going to build, I'm imagining like being able to see like the history of like the intervals of past purchases and stuff like that. So like, so that kind of stuff. But to lower the scope, just something like being able to see the information that you're already storing anyways. So like even just what's the estimated next date that you should probably be purchasing this on, would be helpful.
Okay, cool. Jen, when you get a chance, do you mind just copying and pasting a link to a component from like a design library that may give some ideas of what this could look like?
Okay, yeah.
Whether it's like Bootstrap or whatnot, we'll just add that to the acceptance criteria. I think visually we can kind of all imagine what needs to be done, but this may lead you to estimate this to a higher point. So having said that, what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and reset the board here, and we'll see how we point this. Awesome. Does anyone want to advocate for the two?
I only estimated lower if we're already going to be taking on implementing a component library into the app itself, so that the actual like building of the mechanics of the UI is like a lower consideration. But other than that, I think I'm pretty okay with having this between like a 3 and up if you would have to build everything from scratch, in my opinion.
Okay, cool. So you're saying if we're leveraging like an external library like Bootstrap or something like that, you would estimate this to be closer to a 2, but if we're making the component, it would be like a 5.
Yeah, because I think the bulk of this issue is more hooking, it's like displaying content that we already have.
Okay, cool. Um, do we have a ticket for a external UI library so far? Did anyone have a
I
peek?
put one below this,
Oh,
just
you
the
did? Okay.
Excel library. I know we talked about it last week, but I didn't see any of that as a ticket, so I put it in.
Okay, so let's do this. What I'll do is I'll change the acceptance criteria. Leverage component from the UI library. And then, Jen, did you advocate for a specific one in your ticket?
I think in last week, most of the collabs said they had used Material UI before.
Okay.
And so whatever they're most comfortable with.
Okay, right on. I love that. Awesome. What I'll do is I'll reset the board really quickly, knowing this information, and then we can go ahead and point it with the expectation that we'll be leveraging an existing component from the Material UI library.
Yeah, we can even say like this issue is blocked by that issue in
Hmm.
particular or something like
That's
that.
exactly it. I think we're waiting on one more point here. Okay, cool. We're coming in at an average of 3. Let's go ahead and use that. I'm doing a quick time check, and it seems like we're done in 3 minutes, but we're having so much fun. Does anyone have the capacity to stay longer? Does anyone have a hard finish on top of the hour? Feeling good? I respect your time, so let me know. We can also try to do this asynchronously in like an async poker. We use Jira at work and it has that functionality, but I don't know how we're going to do it here. So if you have any platforms that do that, let me know. As you have to go, just I guess people can drop off, but how are we thinking? Are we thinking we're good to
Maybe
continue?
if we can go over the issues that Nika and Warren put in today, and then the other issues that the mentors introduced, we could probably just async comment on them later.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's have a look at this one here. Jen, I think this is yours. I think this is mine. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and skip over to this one here.
Yeah, I added this one, but I frankly think this might be harder than I personally can tackle. I would probably need I've never tried to and I've never worked with Firebase, so I don't know, but I thought it would be like a good idea for a user to change their password. I personally constantly forget my passwords and I must update mine all the time. So that's what came to my mind. And I guess the only thing is that that would potentially require the creation of the account, where they have like a proper UI display where they can, actually realize that they're inside a profile that they want to, change the password to. So I'm not sure if it's like I don't know. Do we need it?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. I think so the way Firebase authentication works, same with OAuth and those other platforms, is that you have a few different ways of leveraging authentication, right? So right now we're using authentication with Google, but I think what you're probably advocating for is us implementing a username password login, like an email password login, and that's where this kind of functionality makes more sense to reset the password. Because right now we're leveraging login with Google, we would have kind of no scope in our app to be able to allow the user to change the password just because Google is the one hosting their account, if that makes sense.
Then we should totally just remove that issue.
Yeah, okay, cool. But one thing you could do is you could absolutely advocate for, as a user, I want to be able to log in with an email and password because I don't have a Google account. And so if we do decide to move in that direction, you can absolutely advocate for, hey, if a user forgets the password, I want to be able to let them change it. Does that make sense?
Yes, totally.
Yeah, okay,
Maybe
cool.
down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free to add it in there. It may be just at the end of the backlog, but that's the whole point of a backlog. When we get to it, we get to it. So yeah, let me go ahead and I'll leave it in there because maybe we just won't prioritize that, but you can add a comment in there of like, this is blocked by our ability to actually do email and password login, right? Toast notification. I think we covered this
This would
already.
duplicate it too.
Yeah, okay, cool. I'm gonna go ahead and delete this one here. Okay, cool. Let's have a look at this one here. This one's by Nika as well.
Yeah, I thought that this could be fun in case an API like that exists that would like collect all of the discounts. I thought it would be like fun to just have a little informational box that would say like, hey, like, actually it's Thanksgiving coming up and everything is on sale on Amazon. So um I'm not really sure how to implement this, but I think it would be a fun idea. Oh, camel,
Okay.
camel. Yeah, yeah, that's a great idea actually. Camel, 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 yeah.
I love that. Are you advocating for like a UX change where like as a user, I want to be able to see a banner at the top of the website when I log in with like promotional information? Like recently Zapier had their Zap Connect where we had a banner saying Zap Connect is on September 26th, go ahead and join our session. So is that what you're advocating for? So essentially a component that is on top of all of our pages where a user can share information, or is this like a modal that pops up when a user lands on the app with some kind of information? How are you thinking this?
I guess I was thinking, I don't think it should be like a part of the layout, like a default layout, but maybe on their list page, on the home page, it could potentially have like a small box, not advertising anything particularly from Amazon, as I said, but just that there is like, a season of a Black Friday, there is a Black Friday in June, maybe somebody doesn't know about that. Um, so yeah, just like a box on a homepage with some information on discounts or sales that are currently happening.
Okay. Is this something that a user should be able to dismiss? When they have dismissed it, do we expect them to be able to see it again? I'm kind of just curious about the state management of this view.
Those are all a great question, and I love them actually. I do think it should be dismissible, but then at the same time, um, maybe you know what? Maybe they're not entirely dismissible. Maybe it can like float down and be like a small tab that's folded that they can unfold potentially.
Mhm.
What
What
do
I
you
may
think?
say, I think it's great. I think the overall functionality is kind of great. I think we do need to refine this ticket a little bit more before we can point it, just because I think where the scope isn't contained
Definitely
so
can
far.
grow.
Are you feeling good about skipping this one until we have like a ticket in place and then we can go ahead and repoint it as a group? Are you feeling
Yeah,
good
yeah,
about that?
sounds good. And
Cool.
I will try to fill your template so that it can give me as well,
Yeah.
a better idea.
Again, don't worry about filling out the whole template. As long as you have like a user story and like a solution and acceptance criteria, it's all good. Okay, cool. But yeah, so as a team, we're gonna go ahead and refine this one further before we can tackle it. So feeling good about that. I'm gonna leave it as a non-issue for now. Um, that was mine. As user want easy access to sign in, sign up button. Uh, I think that's good. I think we committed as a team to talking about this a little bit more. So Danielle, did you want to say a little bit more about this?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I was just thinking, yeah, mostly just like make sure that the login button is in like a predictable spot and it's also visible from each page. This probably hinges on the other ticket with the sign in page when the person's not authenticated yet. I don't necessarily think this button would need to be present on that page, just kind of more thinking along the lines of like it's in the nav bar, um, and
Yeah,
visible on each page when you're logged in.
I love that. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and get our points in. Awesome. Average of 2. Is anyone against the 2 on here? Feeling good? Awesome. There we go. Okay, cool.
Oh
Stallion.
yeah, this is me too.
Okay.
Yeah, I just said it might be kind of cool if we could have like a darker or light mode.
Mm,
This could either be done with like the built-in browser setting. I just linked to the docs there. A lot of CSS frameworks will also have this as well. And then I just said like as a stretch goal, we could have a toggle on off.
okay, cool. This is another mentor one. I don't know if we want to tackle this right now. It's also a little bit tough
Yeah.
to order and prioritize the backlog with just one of our collabs here. So what I may advocate for us to do is we can maybe just end the session here, and then maybe have a midweek refinement session, almost like an optional office hour that folks can come into, and we can do this further. How does that sound?
Yeah, I think that
Feeling good?
sounds good. Yeah, we should
Awesome.
probably prioritize before then getting the TypeScript stuff in. And what was the other
Yeah.
thing that was in progress? The issue 13. Is that
Oh.
up yet, Mika? I think you
Uh,
PR'd that.
I mean, it's definitely some of the most ambitious code I've ever written, but I do need everybody to look at it because yeah, it's a lot. I've never looked through sets before, and I don't even know like I Googled and read the set should be converted to arrays to keep it less computationally expensive, but like I don't really know any of that for a fact. It's like something I read all online, so. But I'm very happy about it, and it's definitely working from what I can judge.
Cool.
Yeah. I guess the only comment I would have is don't worry too much about over optimizing. I think that's one of the other things that early career developers kind of get into. They want to make sure their code is as efficient as possible, so they would have these trade-offs, which would maybe perhaps make the code a little bit more complex. So what I would maybe advocate for is get the functionality in there, and then if we need to improve on that, and if there's any like performance hits that we're really getting because we didn't go with option A or B, as a team we can decide on doing that as well. So if it's working, I feel like that's like level one. Let's get it working, and then as a team, if we feel like there's a way to like optimize things, we can definitely do that as a team as well. So don't take it upon too much of like, hey, I want the best implementation out of the box. It happens. You iterate on things and you make them better.
I was about to say the same thing. Basically, some of the things that you're thinking about are typically edge cases because the list size would have to be very, very large for you to start running into these issues. So, just keep that in mind, like orders of magnitude larger. So,
Okay.
That's exactly it. It's often like when you're talking about like, should I memorize this list? Well, if you have like 20 items, maybe not. But if you have like 200 items, maybe that's the time where you start like optimizing for that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Cool.
I did memorize the list component though.
No worries. Awesome. Any other things we should cover before we say goodbye for the week? You got on my
Yeah,
side.
I think we're good. Yeah.
Awesome. It was really great seeing you folks here. Have a great rest of your week. And then I'll post some kind of poll for this midweek refinement session. Awesome. See you guys later.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Sounds great. Thanks, y'all.